Welcome to another week of Radio Melee. And joining us this week is one of my favorite players on the West Coast. Known you for a long time. What is up, Fiction? And how are you doing, my man?
What's up? I'm chilling. How are you guys doing?
How you doing,
Good,
PP?
man. I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad we have Fiction here. I mean, someone in the community with a storied history. Um, come up in Melee a couple different times. High level player in Brawl, game developer, masterful Twitter user. Some would say. And I think so. We have a lot of things we can talk about today, and I really do hope you guys will join us in the Radio Melee Discord server for some great questions for this guy. Exclamation Radio Melee in my chat, Toph's chat. Click the link, follow along, and hop right in. I mean, you'll see what everyone's doing and submit topics here, and we'd love to get your questions on. And hopefully, we'll keep plugging this so people can come in because I think we certainly can get some good questions for this guy here today.
Yeah.
And while we're waiting for that Fiction, I really don't think we can do this show with you without talking about your Twitter. And I was thinking of how to ask a question about this. It took me a little bit because I wanted to really, really unpack the Fiction Twitter experience here, and I was thinking. So I have a two-part question, and I think the first part of it is something that I personally am impressed by with it is how honest I feel like you are, and so I'd say for that part, how important do you feel honesty is in the Melee community, and if you think it's different on Twitter, then include that as well. I'm curious how you feel about that.
I feel like everybody can just kind of take their own perspective on it. Some people don't feel very comfortable sharing like their feelings and stuff online, and they would much rather have just kind of like a friendly surface persona. And I super understand that because there's thousands of people on Twitter who just take out their bad day on anyone with an opinion. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of up to whoever's tweeting. Like, I just kind of do it because I think it's funny, and like, there's not much anyone in Melee can say that would bother me. So,
Yeah.
Okay. So the honesty is there primarily because you think it's funny, or do you think there's like a higher necessity for people to speak their minds in Melee more, or anything like that? It's just this is what you feel like doing, and that's it.
Yeah, I just kind of like saying what I think, and a lot of times I kind of like phrasing it in a little funny way and stuff like that. It's fun.
I really like it. I will say that I feel like I kind of used to do that, and I've kind of fallen by the wayside. But like I remember a couple years ago, there was the unfiltered Toph parody account, and then I would always feel like I needed to because they would. It was the idea. I guess the idea was it was like me except spicier, and like they would say hotter takes, and I was like, I found that to be offensive to me because I was like, well, I think I say pretty spicy things, so I would say these things that people would reply like, wow, I can't tell if this is the unfiltered Toph account or the real Toph account, and I kind of miss it. I don't do it much anymore, but I really like that there are people in the community like you, Shep, that just say whatever's on your mind because not everyone does it, and. Dude, PP, I mean, you know it is, like, as a content creator, like, I think it's, at least for people like us, it's definitely good for us. Because I feel like it always, like, anytime someone has some kind of, hot take or says something that, like, isn't so by the book in the scene, it's like, okay, at least there's, like, stuff to talk about, like, as a streamer. It's, like, it's nice. So I always appreciate it. I appreciate every single Fiction tweet.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so I think you've already alluded to this a little bit, Fiction, but the second part of my question is, some tweets, some more than others, will get pushback. And, I was wondering, especially again, because of how you said people will have their bad days or whatever, how do you discern, people that might have legitimate pushback, legitimate criticism for a take you have or the way you phrase it or whatever, versus just them being awful to be awful?
I don't know. I think it's pretty obvious when it's legit instead of just like being a hater. Like it's because you just read it and you're like, ugh. And then like 10 minutes later, you're like getting some food or something, and you're like, that's a pretty decent point, I guess, you know. But I also like, I think that like you also have to, because sometimes people will be like, hey, if you phrased it like this, like no one would have gotten mad, and it's like, well, yeah, but that's not really how I wanted to say it. Like it doesn't like they're like the reason why they're getting mad is because that's how I wanted to say it. Like it's not like the intention is not to get them mad, but the fact that they're mad proves that it's probably coming across at least somewhat right. Sometimes people get mad at something that has, you know, you'll be like, man, like this one, I made a tweet about it where like you say, man, I hate when people wear red shirts, you know, and some guy with an orange shirt is like, he's always coming after me, you know, like, and like, like they just like are completely misinterpreting the tweet. So there's definitely those people who get mad, but sometimes like, I definitely want the tweet to be in a way that like someone will, you know, like they're taking something from it. Like if you just make a tweet and it's like, man, like, hey everybody, like respect your competitors, like, we're all in this together, like this is a fun video game or whatever, like, yeah, you're not going to generate any controversy, and you also didn't say anything, you know. And I think it's really easy for people to just kind of go years not saying anything and be like, yeah, I'm so good at online, you know. And I think like, and by some metrics they are, because, you know, a lot of times sponsors like, I really like this guy's, you know, personality, and you're like, hey, this is the least wholesome person you've ever met in your entire life. You don't know him, like, you know,
you just don't know him. Yeah,
exactly.
You don't know. right. Definitely met people like that, and you know, it's always it's always refreshing when I guess somebody like you comes along, because it's like, I know where you stand on everything, basically. I feel like I don't know, you know.
Yeah, like I said, like everybody can kind of take their own perspective on it, but at the same time, I personally choose to look down on people who like kind of fake it. But like, you know, that's just my personal take. I'm just like,
fake is a very good word there. I think authenticity is something that I think people do value authenticity, right? I think that wins people over. Like, obviously, being non-offensive is one way to win people over, right? Being nice, but I think that when you can be authentic, and I mean, I don't think you're like a mean guy or anything, especially just knowing you for a long time. Because I think the thing too is, you know, when you say things in a provocative way, if you're trying to make a point, I think one thing that I've kind of realized looking at your Twitter is that you can say something provocatively, and people will pay more attention to it. And in them paying more attention to it, the point you were trying to get across gets made. Versus if you say it in a very non-provocative way, maybe people don't even notice in the first place. They don't really think
I have definitely noticed that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I had a question, because I was thinking of, you know, kind of discussion points and stuff. I had a question that I actually wanted to ask the both of you, and it's about, because, you know, I think another thing that happened with you recently, Fiction, was you switched to Falco.
Yeah,
this is kind of recent, less recent now, but you know, still
a little over a year ago. But yeah,
still obviously a lot younger in your career.
Yeah.
Something that I find really fascinating about Falco, and I want to ask your take on this, is I feel like Falco mains are they're often polarizing in how they look at the character. I feel like a lot of Falco mains, I don't know if it's like half and half. Well, I'll just say half and half. I feel like half the Falco mains are like, dude, Falco is amazing. Falco's the best character. Falco just stops at everybody. Like, how could Falco not?
I feel like that's maybe 10% of Falcos at most.
You feel like it's 10%? Okay, and then, you know, the other 90% is like,
yeah, they are.
Dude, Falco's terrible. Struggle character. No. You guys don't understand.
Yeah.
Like the better you get, like the harder it is for Falco. Like, damn, this character is so fucking
It's always hard. It never gets better.
It gets better. Yeah. And what I think is interesting, because we also have you here, PB. I feel like both of you are big Falco believers. Fiction certainly.
Fiction more than me, but I really? Believe in the character too. I mean, I don't think he's the greatest ever, but I think he's strong. I think he's strong, and he can play all the matchups. And
okay, I thought back in the day, PB, I thought you were one of the big, because I feel like I remember you saying on Smash Bros. You thought Falco was like the best character, or one of the best characters, or something. Maybe
I've always said one of the best. I mean,
one of the okay.
The thing is, you know, I had a real problem with saying he, at the time when everyone else thought he was the best. I was like, you guys don't understand. Like, he's got all these issues. And I was down on Falco. I was the down on Falco guy. unreasonably so, but I was.
Yeah.
And then I got over it and realized this character is actually really good, and I need to be more fair
Okay.
about it, and so I was more fair about it. But yeah, yeah, I mean, fiction takes it to a whole new level, and I appreciate that because I think we need the counterbalance because there's so many Falcos that are down on the character.
Right. Fiction. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think Falco's like a polarizing character in that sense? Do you think people just?
I think people. Okay, so I think there's like a bunch of factors, obviously, but like I think that part of it is like a lot of Falcos are just solo main, and I think if like Falco is the only character you've played, you just kind of see the struggles of the character, and like if I just started playing the game and I had lasers from day one, and I was just like, well, yeah, sure, I have lasers, but like, what else, And then you play, but if you made other characters and then you switch to Falco and you're like, I have total control of the stage from across the whole stage, and every like 15 frames you just get hit with a laser and you have to fight through that, and I'm just kind of chilling, and you're like, oh, wait a second, like this is pretty significant. And then I think the other side is that people aren't willing to like play the game, like play the whole game. Like there's a lot of situations, especially like in Falco Fox, where you're like, okay, what's the right response to this situation? And it's like, well, you shoot a laser, you go to the platform, you full hop from the side plat to the top plat, then you short hop to the side plat, you shoot 3 lasers at the side plat, and then you drop down with a laser. And they're like, okay, great, and what did you get? And you're like, Fox hasn't hit me yet, and I got 6 damage. And if you don't if you don't look at that and go, oh, 6 damage and no risk, oh yeah, then you're gonna think Falco's bad, like. So I think people, they want like they want to hit down or shine forward smash. And they're like, sometimes people prevent me from hitting that, and that upsets me, and it's clearly not my fault. Right. There's only one thing left to blame, and it's kind of like, well, so I think people just they're not looking at the game in a sense of like everything. Like people get mad a lot of times the way I play Falco. Like, oh, you full hop, you laser, it's all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, and that's why I think he's good. Like, you guys are like, well, I'm not going to use the laser because that's too good, and I'm not going to full hop because that's too good either. They can't hit me if I use those things. So, and that's just mad lame. And then it's like, oh man, Falco's bad because I don't use any of his good tools. And it's like, yeah, that kind of makes sense that you think he's bad then.
Yeah. I mean, Fiction's answer is basically what I would say. The one very complicated character. Fiction alluded to some of that. I mean, I think he's the most complicated in Melee, which I don't. Maybe he's a take. I don't know, but to me, very complicated.
Next to Ice Climbers.
Okay, I haven't heard that before. I'm here for it though. I know all the desync stuff is pretty confusing as well. I'm not informed on that.
Well, I mean, even stuff like just like dashing back. Like if you dash back, Nana dashes back 6 frames later. So then like people can like hit Nana and get caught in hit lag and stuff like that.
Right.
And so there's all these different ways where you can desync and put Nana in front of you or behind you, or have her up smash while you shield, and like that's just goes on forever, So I think they're the craziest for sure. But Falco is like reasonably the most complicated character out of like the good characters.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I haven't heard that before. I'll be glad to keep that in mind. The second part that Fiction was talking about was I think for Falco especially, there's a certain viewpoint of him that is like, I've got to be cool and I've got to do this stuff, and I've got a free flow, man, and you're harshing my vibe, telling me to do this other stuff. And I think in one sense, I think I'm okay with there being some aspect of this sort of thing in Melee, but I think. With Falco, it's overrepresented and a bit of an issue, and so
God, someone called it the Falco mysticism, the mysticism Falcos that are just like it's like the virgin frame data nerd versus the Chad mysticism Falco. It's like Chad mysticism Falco, just down her in, bro. It's gonna work out if you're sick.
Yeah, no, I always tell Ginger, like, because people are always saying he's laser camping, and people say that he laser camps in sets where he shoots like 4 lasers the entire set, and I keep telling him, like, it has nothing to do with how you play. It has to do with their judgment on how likely it is that you woke up in a dumpster. Like if you do not have a roof over your head, the controller is the only possession you have. You wake up in a dumpster high on 16 drugs, and you show up to the tournament. You will be the most loved Falco main of all time.
I don't understand what you just said, but I appreciate it.
It's just people hate the idea of like a nerdy Falco main. And so the further you can get from like seeming prepared, knowledgeable, etc., like the better people will like your Falco.
I understand. Yeah, I agree with that more. The analogy was too far out of my brain space.
That's not an analogy. That is a fact, actually.
Okay, so you know Falcos that have woken up in dumpsters.
I certainly do.
I think if you didn't wake up in a dumpster and someone else did, the crowd would cheer for them. That's all I'm saying.
Interesting. Yeah, we've got to really get some stats on that. That's important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good point, and I feel like I even remember talking to somebody, not to name names, I'm not trying to put anybody on blast, but I talked to somebody who Fiction beat. PP, if you believe it or not, I've talked to someone that Fiction beat in tournament at the tournament recently, and they were like, "Oh, it was so boring. Like, oh, Fiction, the way he played was, it was so boring. Like, I just didn't even want to play the set at a certain point." And then I watched the VODs, and he shot like 3 lasers. It was like they were like 2-minute matches. Like, it wasn't lame at all. It was fine. It was.
I don't particularly remember Fiction being like, particularly campy or anything.
Well, Fiction. Here's my thing. Fiction made a tweet that I will shoot a gazillion lasers, and I will lame you out with these gazillion lasers, and it's going to be horrible. And I've been watching matches. Maybe I'm just different and weird. Maybe I've just been in the community for too long. But at this point, I'm like, I would like to see that. I want to see Fiction shoot a gazillion lasers and time someone out. And I keep watching Fiction matches, and he doesn't shoot that many lasers.
Well, I shoot plenty, but people a lot of times they get irritated and they run in, and then you don't have to shoot them. But I just think that, like, I don't know, everywhere I go, everyone I talk to, everyone is always shaming Falco for shooting lasers. Oh, he shot a bunch of lasers. It's like, oh, I didn't, you held shield on the platform for like the last 30 seconds, but like, we're not going to talk about that, and it's kind of
ready to talk about that.
And so it's like, I'm clearly good at receiving hate. Like I'm accustomed to it. I have rather thick skin. So I'm down to be the guy where it's like, people are in the crowd and they have giant posters that say "Stop shooting lasers," and stuff like that. Like I'm down to be public laser enemy number 1 because I'm just tired of everybody daring in and then being like, man, my character is so bad. It's like, dude, you didn't even fast fall the dare. Like it's not even close to being a good option.
Yeah, very fair. Well, now that we have successfully roasted, a lot of Falco mains, I think it's time to move on. Let's talk about the community voice, and let's talk about the question we had from Brandon, homemade waffles.
Another Falco main.
Yes.
And the question the question in question was who would win in a melee match out of LeBron James and Steph Curry? Now, I mean, again, my logic was I narrowly gave it to Steph Curry. I just feel like Steph, because of his age, was likely to have played more melee than LeBron, who, if anything, maybe would have played more 64. I think he's just a little older. Okay. I see Curry winning, only dropping 1 game. Curry picked Mara, and Brown probably picked DK, says Marcus Rondo. The locks. Oh, this is a lot of... They put some thought into this. Steph would be one of these players with natural mechanics.
They thought about this question today? What the heck? Why?
Wow. Why? Steph is like the mango of the NBA. I love Steph is like the mango of the NBA. That's what I'm trying to hear with the exciting half-court shots and crazy plays. I feel like that's a hot take. Steph is like the mango of the NBA. Whatever. I'm not going to super duper go into it.
I feel like he's closer to like the Leffen.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
I feel like, and that is why I think Steph would win, is because he would look in melee and like the very first thing he'd like find rest or something, and he'd just be like, there it is, like that's my move forever. I'm just resting it. Right. And LeBron would be like, oh man, like reverse back air and stuff, and Steph wouldn't even know there were reverse hitboxes. Maybe you win. I swear, like LeBron would definitely go for like, oh, I'll be good in like 6 months or something, and like Curry would be good the very first day, or at least he'd be taking stocks.
Yeah, Steph Curry is the kind of player who's like he's like the Tokido. To put it in fighting game terms, Steph Curry is the guy that finds the most broken thing that nobody's exploiting and just exploits the shit out of it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I see too.
That's the Steph Curry. I completely agree with that. Okay, LeBron methodically picks part with a complete, well-rounded guy. Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, I agree with that. In a funny way, this is Mango Zayn debate. I'm taking Steph over LeBron. See, I'd say Zayn is more like the Steph Curry out of those two.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Steph naturally takes Marth looking to use. It's, by the way, it's funny that people are saying LeBron pick DK or Gannon. It's like, dude, just because he's a big guy doesn't mean you pick a big character. Maybe it does though. I don't know. Steph naturally takes Marth looking to use Ranger to his advantage. A little coaching from Zayn PP wouldn't hurt either. LeBron takes Fox, the best all-around character, surest bet for success. Endless Mango. Yeah. Okay. So that's more in line to. Yeah, I think I'm the closest to Deekstra's opinion on this one. Congratulations, Deekstra. I agree with you.
Yeah, I definitely imagine like LeBron is going to pick like Falcon or something, and then his friends all tell him to pick Fox because Fox is so good, so he does, and then Steph goes Marth and like down tilts and stuff.
Yeah. Precisely. Okay, well, I think we've got some questions coming in. And a reminder, you got all of y'all in chat, people watching on Twitch. For the people watching on YouTube, of course, come by. We took a break last week, but we do this every single Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. East Coast time. And you get to talk to us live on air. If you've got any hot takes you want to give, I know everyone's got spicy takes out there. You can just talk to us, and we have to react to whatever you say. And for people in Twitch right now, again, !Radio Melee. If you're in my chat or PP's, just hop in. There's a channel called Submit Topics here. It's simple as that. Just ask us whatever you want, and we get to. You get to talk to us. We get to hear your beautiful voice using the magic of Discord, which was down this morning. And that was horrifying for everyone involved. So here we go. I think we're about ready to get our first caller in, and it looks like it is Speedy Sloth.
Welcome back. Where are you calling in from?
Sloth.
I'm from MDVA. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm back again.
What's your question for us today, Speedy Sloth?
Yeah, so question is, I know you guys touched on this a bit, but do you think players have an obligation to cater their brands or like their names more towards sponsors, like in terms of social media? Or do you think they should like be okay to be themselves? This is of course of like naming or whatnot, because like this happened with Logan and Swift both changed their names, which I didn't realize Swift changed their name because of like a sponsor. That's something I learned when
I didn't know that.
Asked him. I'm not sure if I can say, let's just say there's an adult movie star who happened to have the name Taylor Swift. And
wow.
I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
And I always thought Logan's was kind of a funny / sad one where it's like, dude, it's
your
like
initials.
It's just my initials. Yeah. For people who don't know,
I feel like his parents had to have seen that coming.
True. Actually,
like
true.
imagine
like
it's just you're trolling your kid. You're like, haha. His initials are butts. You know, it's like, dude, like you're a kid. Like,
yeah. Well, for whatever reason. Yeah, it's a good question. What do you think, Shep? We'll let you start this one off. Obligation is a strong word.
Yeah. That's what I agree with. I think obligation is a little too strong. I think people are like, well, you can keep doing what you're doing and make, $50 at a tournament in relative obscurity, or maybe have a shot at more fame and fortune. And I think there's nothing wrong with trying to take that.
I am a bit surprised by that, Fiction. I would have expected you to say, hey, look, you got to be your own person. It'll work out if you're more true to yourself, and you get more engagement if you're provocative. And, I'm a bit surprised.
I think that's true for what it's worth.
Well, I think everybody should be themselves. And for some people, their inner self is just ready, just wanting to sell out. So, like, that's fine. Like, that's okay. Like, I'm not going to tell them to be me, try to be somebody else. Like, that's who they are. It's okay.
Let me be
Interesting.
me.
What a reference.
You're 30.
You're 30.
And I also don't think there's anything like morally like weird about like changing your name to like be on a team, you know? Like you clearly want to be on the team more than like some dumb tag or whatever. Of course, nobody in our chat knows anything about that.
Nope. Don't know anything about that.
I definitely think people, and some people just are. I mean, I've definitely also just been people who are authentically non-provocative. I don't know, like Eddie Mexico. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't want Eddie to be like mean or something.
I think Eddie just is a nice guy. Like, I think.
Although watching him try to be mean would be really fun.
That'd be really fun. That'd be really funny.
He'd be, you're less excellent than usual today. Like,
yeah.
What was the bit about? It was Diz Kid Boogie was on stream and it was like, I want him to just snap and just curse. It's that same kind of thing. I guess to pivot the question more, do you think for, I guess, broadcasting Smash as an esport, I guess making it more like, I guess, market friendly, do you think, like, even let's say you're not trying to get a sponsor, but let's say our top player was named something like weird or something, do you feel like they would have an obligation to the scene to be more like advertiser friendly or like brand friendly, so the scene as a whole could grow more? Do you feel like it's more better for them to stay true to themselves, I guess?
I mean, I don't think they owe the community anything. Like,
yeah. What do you think about that, PP? Just as I mean, we basically lived this, right? In a sense, you did change your tag.
I did not for the sake of the scene per se. It was more for I wanted to do it anyway, and then it just kind of worked out. And
the money.
Yeah, I would never say that like there's an obligation to like change your tag for professionalism's sake, whatever. Not to the scene. I don't think anyone really has a and I'm trying to think of examples, and if there's any other games where like there's top players with really outrageous.
Well, I can let you think for a second. I got a couple of things I can say about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the first thing is, if the scene is pretty small, it's probably not your top player's name that's holding you back. I think there are a lot of other things that are in the way before that. And if you're doing all those other things, then yeah, maybe it's time to look at that. But it wouldn't be my first consideration. I think if anything, that just kind of sows division in the scene, which would probably not be great. But the other thing is, I think it also, you're saying the tag is weird. Well, I think it also depends on how weird. If it's Dr. PP weird, you're probably okay. You're pushing the line, but you're probably okay.
Yeah.
But if you're going weirder than that, you might want to reconsider. Like if you're, like if we were Melee and we were this size, and it was something weirder than Dr. PP, I would say, yeah, I mean, maybe consider. Maybe
if we were a smaller community, and then like our bet like Zane's tag was like, my community hates all minorities. Like I would advocate changing
oh my
tag,
god, that's
I mean?
so like not.
Like that would be an example of a tag that I think would be super worth changing. Right?
Yeah, that's pretty worth changing.
Oh
I think we can agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think in any context, like even if you're not a top player, I think my community hates minorities.
Yeah.
New Net Play Smurf account.
Oh, it is. Listen, there was
hater.
It's funny. It's funny, by the way. It's funny we talk about this, given that someone in my chat did bring up Zane did. He did get banned for a week for having a particular tag on his Slippy account.
Oh, I remember that.
That'd be another one that you'd probably want to change at a certain
You would
point.
want that one changed. I mean, some of these, I guess, like, it's interesting, right? Because it's going to be hard for you to be a top player if you're going to have a tag that's like that. So it's weird. There would have to be this weird thing where it's like between Dr. PP and the thing that got banned. And there's a spectrum. And I don't know where the survive until top player part begins and where you're just not making it anyway.
One of my favorite tags, I guess this is a little off topic, but Be Sad. Oh, it's so good. That's my favorite tag of all time.
Be sad.
Oh, people were saying Glock in my Toyota, but
Oh, I love that tag.
BSAD. It's an acronym for blunt smoking anus destroyer, and it is my
Oh.
favorite. It's I like it.
That would be, that would be
Yeah.
the kind of tag that if you were trying to become the best player in an established esport, you
Yeah,
might need to change
probably.
at a certain
Definitely
point.
a red
You would just
flag
say
that
it
you like
stands
that
for something
tag.
different. It
Yeah.
stands
Yeah,
for
yeah,
something
yeah,
different.
yeah.
Judging you right now for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a blue screen of death thing. Like when I hear
Oh,
I hear like BSOD and I'm thinking
Uh,
like blue screen of death, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, to wrap it all, to put a bow on it, I think that it's an interesting way of thinking about it, but I just don't think most people are looking at their like professionalism or whatever as a obligation to the scene. I think for most people, sure, I think for most people their level of professionalism or whatever you want to call it is going to give them or take away opportunities for themselves. And then at that point, you just have to ask yourself what your goal is. And for some people, their goal is to just have fun and not, really care about that sort of thing. Like obviously you can go pro in Melee, but a lot of people play Melee at a pretty high level and also just have a job and they don't really care about that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I think that it's cool that with Melee, there are people who play at a high level that are also just doing other things versus like, I don't know, more established esports where it feels like you have to be full-time at it to be like a top player,
Right.
I like that with Melee, we get people from different walks of life for that reason.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyways, any shout outs you want to do, Speedy Sloth?
Yeah, I want to shout out the MDVA scene. We just had a really great regional. I was at Game Mason University. It was
Nice.
super sick. A lot of people. Shout outs to Swift for coming out winning, and shout outs for Maryland for getting top 2 at the event. So VA can suck it. So let's go, fight me. And and then the MDVA Arcadian is happening in Richmond. I'm not sure the specific dates, but it's happening soon. So if you're in the area, come out to that. And also to Baltimore Melee Weekly. It's a new weekly in Baltimore that just showed up. It's at this video game bar. It's super sick.
Such
So
a
come
good
out
name
to
for a
that.
weekly in Baltimore.
Yeah, BMW. Yeah, it's great. So yeah, anyway, come out to your local events.
Go to your locals,
Anyway.
guys.
Yep.
Stop letting Fiction and Ringler be top 1 and top 2 at Verdugo. I see you out there, SoCal. Hey, thanks for coming on, Speedy Slot. Good question.
No problem. Thank you.
See you later.
See you later. Love plugging. I love the plugging of local tournaments. I'm really glad those are opening up.
Yeah.
Hey, anyone in NorCal, our first Homemade Waffles is hosting the first iteration of a new big local in Oakland. And that's going to be this weekend. And actually a bunch of top players from out of state or not out of state. Well, some out of staters, Magi and Eddie Mexico, but also a bunch of top SoCal players are coming up. So hope everyone in NorCal goes to that. It's cool to see locals opening up in more places again because it's just been so long for so many people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Right now, it looks like we got another caller queued up and ready to go. Tiles, what's up? Where are you calling in from? What's your question for us?
Hello, good evening.
Evening.
Evening. So I'm calling in from Portugal.
Evening.
Yeah, evening. It's almost midnight here. So my question is, I've been finding myself having trouble playing my best in a tournament setting. It might be nerves, might be a lack of familiarity with the setting in itself. It can be a bunch of things. But one of the things we hear about Armada and how good he was because of his B or his C game being so much better than the rest. My question is, what is the B game? Is it something you can specifically practice? Is it just one of those exoteric concepts that the Melee community comes up to describe something they don't know how to describe? Or is it really something concrete? And if it is something concrete, well, how do you practice that? Because admittedly, my Melee skill is not the greatest to start with, but it's annoying playing in tournament and feeling like I can never do the things that I know I can do, and feeling like I fall short every time.
A good question.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think I have something to say about it, I guess.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I think so the most important thing when you're going into a tournament is to focus on, first of all, hitting your tech skill, and then second of all, following your game plan. And I think that like being able to follow your game plan and be able to execute to some capacity is kind of just like that's the definition of B game, is like you to make your B game good, you need to have a good game plan and you need to know what the match is going to entail and you need to know like what plan you're going to stick to and stuff like that. And then like, A game and whatever is beyond that is like basically when your brain is already executing your tech skill and your game plans perfectly for you, and then you can kind of go one extra layer on top of that, trying to be extra fast or extra tricky or whatever. But you just need that, like the basis, which is based on like knowledge and game plans and stuff like that, to kind of give you like a baseline of performance. That's my take on it, I think.
Yeah, and for those out there, Fiction does do coaching, so you guys want to learn more about your B game, you can always work with him on that. I do coaching as well, and I've talked to people about this some, and I can tell you B game, the way I understand it and the way I started kind of talking about it a few years ago was you're not able to do everything that you want to be able to do, kind of like what Tiles is talking about. And so I find that a B game is kind of like it's like a backup plan, B for backup. And so basically in that, what you're looking for is you're looking for things that are going to be simpler to do, things that are going to be maybe easier to execute, but give more reward, like more reads and tech chases or whatever. Or you just cover certain things in edge guards as opposed to trying to react to everything, stuff like that. So basically more reads and reactions. And you're still trying to go for high value stuff, but it's stuff that you have practiced. And so there's your regular practice routine for your A game that you want to do, and you want to be as tight as possible and everything like that. It's going to raise your skill ceiling. And then there's B game, which I kind of think is raising your skill floor up. And so that is going to come from practicing differently, practicing doing movements a little bit slower so that you can react to something, practicing doing a simpler edge guard or whatever, and then you play friendlies and you intentionally try and work that stuff in, or you try to play on a day where you're not feeling as well and you see how well it works. You can get some good information that way. But yeah, it is different than A game to me, which is you're executing all of their stuff. But I think Fiction's point's really important. You want to have your game plan down. You want to make sure you're doing your tech right, because if you're not doing that, then you're not A or B, doesn't matter. You got to have your foundation first.
I had something to add that I think a lot of people ignore. So this is something that I think I was very poor at for many years, for a long time. And Drug Fox kind of exposed this. We were doing a lesson. And basically he was making the point. I think this is something a lot of people struggle with. He was basically saying, okay, we were analyzing some match of mine, right? Some game I was playing at some point. And he basically said, like, okay, wow, you're doing a lot of good things, but then when you misinput something, he like noticed you take a while to kind of recalibrate to what's actually going on versus what you were going for. And so like an example of this is, let's say you go for and he was comparing me to someone he thought was very good at this, which every top player essentially is, but he was saying IBW is extremely good at this. When IBW misses something or messes something up, he plays off of the thing that happened as if he meant to do it. So let's say someone's pressuring, like a Falco's down or shining your shield or something, and you go for a shine out of shield. And you get, you mess up the input and you get spot dodge instead of the shine out of shield. For me, I like, per what Drug Fox was saying about me, he was basically saying, you take a while to react to the fact that the spot dodge even happened. So you're not ready to DI the thing that, like, if you get hit by one of the things the Falco's doing to you, you're not ready to DI it or something. So you get very poor DI in that particular position or something. You're not ready to, or you like panic after the spot dodge and you go back into the shield when like you had an opportunity to just counterattack them because they whiffed something or whatever. And I think this is since I've started looking for it, I think this is really prevalent with like a lot of players that are quote unquote inconsistent. When they're hitting their stuff, they look really, really good. When they miss their stuff, they can't play off of like the resulting scrambles well at all. And if that sounds like you, that might be something you want to work on, like just really paying attention to exactly what's happening. And if when you mess up, be ready to play off of that as if it was on purpose. And a lot of the times that kind of corresponds to your A game versus your B game, because of course, if you are playing your A game, it never comes up, it never matters because you don't mess up the thing you were going for. But if you're playing your B game, or if you're not playing as well, some mistakes are going to happen, but you have to be able to play off of them.
Yeah,
And I've got other random examples of this too, but
yeah. All of your points make sense. So I have a follow-up question. If I'm not going over my time, if I am, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
So when it comes to what you brought up, Toph, about how if you make a mistake, try to play through it. So about practicing that, would be right to say that you practice your big game in tournament. So if you want to, if you
tournament,
practice,
but you could even just play friendlies and like notice when you're making mistakes, do VOD review, and notice like when you make a mistake, because you're not assumably you're not playing perfect, and notice when you're making a mistake, and then notice what you're doing off of that mistake, and try to work on better reacting. It's like you're practicing reacting to a situation. Like you like, oh, I noticed that in this situation, like this thing, I got into this scramble and then I got flustered and like I didn't do like, oh, I had an opportunity to do this thing instead. And you don't need to do that in tournament. You can definitely practice. You can do that with just Slippy. Yeah, that's what I've been doing. You can literally do it on unranked. Yeah.
All about situation recognition. I think that's how you say it. Recognizing situations that you've come across and try to figure out how to, turn mistakes into what you want to do.
Yeah. I also think there's one other aspect of B game, which is something that I'm now remembering because of talking to Spark last week. This is kind of ties in what PP was just saying. But so Spark was basically saying like, oh, okay, he had to play King of the Cube against Daki, and okay, it's like there's like some element of ping, and Spark was basically saying like, okay, the ping was bad enough that if Daki Fox goes for the ambiguous DI, Spark knows that he's gonna have a tough time with his reaction tech chase flowchart, so he might go for an up smash, right? Just go for the read instead of going for like a hard reaction. And so being able to identify, that could be because of lag, like because the ping is not so good, but it could also be because on a given day you don't feel like you're playing so good. So being able to identify like, oh, I might not be able to execute my normal game plan, which is a little more high risk, because if you mess up the reaction tech chase, you're going to get punished, blah, blah, blah. Knowing that and going for a different option that's relatively high value, but it's not as risky in that sense. Like that would be another example of shoring up your B game. And I think that the important thing there is knowing yourself, knowing how good your reactions are. For example, like, oh, in these conditions, I can reaction tech chase. In these conditions, maybe I can't because it's net play and it's not so good. And I think that that's an important part of it as well.
Okay, thank you all. I've definitely gained some new insight into what to do. I will try to approach now every tournament match I have with a solid game plan, at least a solid game plan, and then see if I mess up, what can I get out of it, out of that mistake. So thank you.
For sure. Good luck.
Oh, yeah.
And do you got any shout outs for us on your way out today, Tiles?
Yeah, sure. I want to shout out the Portuguese melee scene. We're about like 15 deep at best, but we still play sometimes.
That's how it starts.
Yeah.
Nice.
Been playing, I think, since 2015. The entire scene is when it started, so it's been nice seeing it grow. Also, the melee peeps over on the Ludwig Discord. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Have a nice rest of stream.
Thank you.
Oh,
Have
yeah.
a good night.
Nice.
See ya.
Cool to talk to you guys about that question, PP and Shep, because I feel like I always think it's really cool to get like top player perspective on these sorts of things.
Yeah, like ultimately, I think like the idea of B game and stuff like that, a lot of it relies on like just personal definitions and like whatever model you use. And a lot of, like, it's not like I disagreed with anything you guys said about it. It's just like I would have maybe put that in like a slightly different position in the model or set it a slightly different way,
Yeah.
but it's all the
Right.
same stuff.
Right.
I mean, I think what you said is important for people to keep in mind too, because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people don't have the good foundation in the first place. So
Hmm.
pretty
Yeah.
important.
I think a lot of times
You
people
definitely
kind
notice
of
it.
they rely on like I did well at this matchup a week ago, so if I play it now, I'll do fine. And they don't really know why they did well at a week ago or
Right.
why they think they'll do fine, and then they just lose, and they're like, "Well, I guess I played bad because I was winning at this matchup last week." You know, and it's like,
Or that person played lame. They shot a bunch of lasers in full hop.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, throwbacks aside, we do look like we have our next caller ready to bring in.
Nice.
This looks like Mr. Doctor Boy. What a name! And I see your picture is a Falco on Discord. I'm very excited for your question. Where are you calling in from? What's your question for us today?
I'm from. My name is Steven. I'm from New Jersey, and
Okay.
what I was wondering from you guys is basically my controller broke recently, and instead of getting a new one, I kind of just decided that I was going to take a break from Melee for a while, and I was interested in hearing what you guys thought about like taking breaks from the game. You know, if you think it's like important and necessary, and I know, especially Fiction, I know that you had a pretty long hiatus. And I was just wondering, like, you know, what the reasons for taking breaks are for you guys and, like, how you know when the right time to come back is.
Interesting question. Is there if you do you feel particularly moved on this one, Fiction, or I mean, I can start.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that breaks are necessary for everyone, and I think that everyone needs different breaks and processes the game differently. I think that it's yeah, like I think that if you feel like you're kind of oversaturated with the game, you can kind of
Mhm.
feel it out that it's kind of time to like take some time to process stuff, because sometimes I think we like open a lot of doors in our head and then we don't really get around to closing them. Sometimes that can just mean like maybe you're playing too much in comparison to the amount of VOD review you're doing, or sometimes even the other way around. But most Melee players, that's not the case.
Yeah.
And like I think that I just kind of do it based on feel, and there's just been times before where I didn't want to play for whatever reason, or I had other things going on, so I just stopped playing. And then, you know, when you come back, it's like advancing the meta is about 100 times slower than copying it. So, you know, if you're gone for like a year or something, it really doesn't take that long to catch up on all the new improvements that have been made. Uh, I think sometimes taking a break can freshen up your perspective a bit. So I think you kind of have to do it based on like how confined you feel to your perspective and stuff like that too. But I think it's just really like a feel based thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that covers a fair amount of what I wanted to say, especially the saturation that he's talking about. If you feel overloaded by information, uh, you've got to either find a way to condense it in yourself, but I think one of the best things you can do is just take a break for that. And a break doesn't have to be you don't play; it could just mean you play less. And this is something that I think Melee players don't think about a lot because they're either playing 400 hours of Slippy a day or they're like, I got to take a break, and there's no in between. And so, actually paying attention to how you feel, how much you're enjoying, how much you feel like you're learning, and modifying how much you're playing or what you need to practice in response to that, paying attention to yourself and actually using the feedback you get goes a long way. Um, Beyond that, the right time to come back is, again, you pay attention to how you feel. Do you feel excited to play? Do you feel like you have new understandings? Is there something that you want to do? Or sometimes, I mean, it's just stuff outside the game. Like maybe you're overwhelmed just because like school and work are just going harder for you right now, and it's just harder to do more Melee stuff, and you just need time to chill out more, right? It depends. And so it's not, sometimes there can be things outside of Melee that can impact these decisions too. But yeah, when you have the headspace for it, I think it's pretty good. And people use Melee in different ways. Some people use Melee as like a stress relief, which I think is kind of a risky business given the nature of Melee, but you can go for it. But if you're using it more competitively, yeah, you want to make sure you're in a solid headspace for that, or at least you're able to get some enjoyment from that.
Did you take a lot of breaks when you were like when you were a top player, PP? Did you
Not really. The only time
Not intentionally, at least, right?
No, not intentionally. If I took, I would take. It was. I mean, there were also the breaks were basically back in the day. The breaks were built into the system because you had a major, and then there were 6 months, and then you had a major, and then there were 6 months, and maybe 4 months if if things were going really fast.
I hated it back then. I hated that. It's like you lose to Armada, and he's like, "See you next spring," and you're like, "No."
Yeah.
Oh, I I hated that era of 2 majors a year, and then you finally make it out, and PPMD is your favorite player, and you can't find the energy to play you in friendlies, and you cry. But
well, what that would never happen.
never,
That would never happen. That seems like a doomsday scenario. But no, I mean, to be fair, yeah, I mean, and so I think Fiction's bringing up a good point about how it can feel different as a top player who's grinding a lot versus someone who's learning more or whatever. And so I think where you are with the game is also going to impact that too. But yeah, Toph, for me, I've never intentionally taken one. There have been some times where I felt like just emotionally I needed space to just handle things that were not really related to the game.
Right.
And that would be its own thing. But yeah, so never wanted to do it myself. But I mean, if I took, I mean, sometimes I would even take like just a day or a couple of days off or something, and that'd feel pretty good for me just because I was playing all the time. So yeah, a break is going to be relative to how much time you were putting in before too.
Yeah, I also think for me, like, I've never had to be like on a break, with the exception of like long time ago when I had hand problems, where like I'd never had to be like where I was like on a break and like wishing I could play Melee and being like, no, I'm on a break. The break is like when I'm doing stuff and everything's going down and like life is happening. And then I'll be like, I've played Melee like once in the last month, and then like that'll be a break, not like I'm going to take a scheduled break now,
Mm-hmm. Like the break is it's cause and effect. You're taking a break because like you're not playing Melee because of the break. You're taking a break because you're not playing Melee. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
And Dr. Boy, I mean, I guess this is to all say that, I mean, if your controller broke, if you feel like taking a break rather than and just focusing on other things rather than you that's kind of your prerogative. You could kind of
maybe it's a sign.
Yeah, exactly. But on the flip side, it's definitely not necessary. I mean, I think Armada was like very vocal, if I remember. Like he was a big proponent of like, oh yeah, I never take breaks. Like I remember when he was active, Armada would always say, I think he said that he basically never went longer than 3 days without practicing seriously. So you definitely don't need to take a break. So it's kind of on you more so than anything else.
Cool. All right, guys. Thanks so much for answering that.
Yeah, no worries. You got any shout outs for us on your way out today?
Yeah, I got 2 shout outs. One is just I have a YouTube channel. It's the same name, Mr. Dr. Boy. I just do little video essays and rankings. So if you guys want to check that out, that'd be cool. And then the other one is a shout out. My good friend Kevin is making an indie game. It's called Even Heroes Die. And he actually has a YouTube channel set up where he's doing like a little devlog where he shows his like progress and stuff. So I just wanted to plug, his game because it looks pretty cool. It's like an action platformer roguelike. It's Even Heroes Die.
Okay, I'll look it up later.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds that's a really cool name, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, Fiction, is also developing a game.
That's right.
So I'm,
Yeah, that's kind of what I mentioned. I saw his game and it looks awesome.
No.
Yeah, for sure. Well, great shout out and thank you so much for calling in. Hope you enjoy your break or lack thereof.
All right, thanks guys. Have a good one.
Thank
See
you
you later.
too. See you.
All right, well, it looks like we got time for about one more question today. Do we have someone?
We do have someone.
We do.
PhD's nuts. Very beautiful. What a good username, if I do say so myself.
It's a SoCal local regular.
Wow.
I saw him yesterday.
Amazing. How was that? How was that? PhD's nuts.
Yeah. So you're
And
calling
what's
in
your
from
question today?
SoCal, and let's hear about the question.
Oh well, it's always a pleasure whenever you get to see fiction. It's I'm grateful every time.
Yeah.
Every
But,
single time. Yeah.
Yeah, my question is, there's been a lot of Twitter discourse floating around about, who would win the 10v10 crew battle between SoCal and Tri-State, who's better. And I wanted to ask your guys' opinion, who would be the best 10v10 region in the world? And,
10v10.
whatever your answer is, how many players would you need to include for that not to be the case? So does
Holy
somebody
cow.
else become better in 20v20 or 30v30,
Yeah.
or when does it stop?
Oh man,
Huh.
this might be the case. This might be a question for Toph because he knows every player from everywhere.
Yeah, it's like
Not
final question
really.
before closing. We have 5 minutes left. What's your 50 by 50 crew battle? And it's
Like, damn it. It's funny. I feel like historically, SoCal's super duper strong, and then I think recently Florida got a little weaker, right? Because I feel like a lot of the top players moved
Wizzy
out of
and
Florida.
Plup moved.
And
Wizzy-
is HBox still Florida?
Yes.
Okay. But Wizzy and Plup moves. That's
huge.
that's a blow for sure. So
Coldball's moved. M2K's not playing regularly. So it's tough times for Florida right now.
I guess the short answer, I feel like it's SoCal right now. I feel like I give 10v10 to SoCal based on.
Isn't Tri-State always talking about how they're good? But I don't know.
Tri-State's gotten
I
better.
don't know. I
I
don't
don't
know
know
the
who lives
Tri-State
there.
lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, Cody's there. That's
Cody's
pretty good.
there.
Acklo's there. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. And then
Hey, I definitely look at those
they got the
nightclub
J.
results.
They got the J Sheiks.
They do have the J Sheiks.
They're up there.
They got pretty good players.
I think.
And I know they
Sox
talked a whole bunch.
probably
I know they talked a whole bunch of mess because Kadorn went over there and he did get first. So there was
Right.
that. But I think it's SoCal, right? I feel like
I feel like the regions are too weird right now where it's like there's just a lot of players who are kind of inactive right now or like not as active and stuff, and there's a lot of people who are
Polish Tri-State. I'm just trying to think. I think
I have
because
no idea.
Tri-State is. I think Tri-State is what New York, New
what
Jersey,
are the three
Pennsylvania.
states?
Isn't it Pennsylvania is the third one?
Is that
If
the
so,
third state? I guess.
yeah, but no one cared about Pennsylvania for a long time. But I think we have to care again about Polish.
Yeah,
So that's Polish. That's pretty good.
that's pretty good.
yeah, I mean, I don't think SoCal is particularly super strong right now or anything. So I wouldn't be
Mhm.
surprised if we could lose to somebody else. But also, like, if you include Mango and stuff, things go downhill. Things go downhill for other crews very quickly when Mango is involved.
That's true.
Like, you think you're
I have
doing
noticed
great,
that.
and then it's like 9 stocks later, and your 2 best players are gone, and it's like, oh no, So who knows?
I feel like since Cody hasn't been entering too many locals, if you're going to include Cody, it's only fair to include Mango.
Yeah. And okay, for what it's worth, historically, when we've done I think the only major that really consistently does like regional crew battles, which is an event that I always think is fun to watch. I don't know if the players feel the same way. I always think it's fun. But it's Big House. And for what it's worth, Mango's always played for Big House. And, equivalently, what was the most recent one? Big House 9. I think Muta King played for Florida. So I think it's fair. Yeah, I think you put everyone in, even the people who don't really go to their locals. I think that's fine.
And also, I think that like if it's a pretty strong region, like there's a bunch of good players on your crew battle or on your crew, it kind of just like crew battles are very not like a very inconsistent format, Like
yeah.
It's like we maybe if we're doing like best of 5 crew battles or something, but nobody's doing that. So
well, I think also the which characters you have on it.
yeah, that's what
Right,
I'm
matters
saying.
more.
Like it just gets complicated, and there's sometimes they're like, oh, this guy clutched. You took 13 stocks, and other times you take like 2. So it's not a consistent thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. If I had the list of all the people in front of me, I'd feel better making a decision.
Same, yeah.
But I'm also the only person on East Coast here, so I don't want to also say SoCal. But just based on how I think about it, I have a hard time not saying it. But I'm also not saying it because again, I am the only East Coast person on the call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I mean,
What's
I
your
do think
take on that?
Tri-State. I do think
PhD's
Tri-State's. Yeah, I think Tri-State's been getting better lately, though. I will say that.
Yeah. They I feel like they're probably top whatever top 3, top 5 regions. But I don't know. I think it'd be cool to, for what it's worth, there were like the 5v5s for Rollback Rumble, the big one. And that was an interesting one. A lot of weird stuff happened because like like Mango had to dip out to go to something. I think it was to film a video with Ludwig. So like SoCal got kind of upset. Like a lot of quote unquote upsets happened, but at the same time it was kind of cool because like you got to see some interesting variety. Like I think SoCal lost to PNW. I think NorCal lost to AZ. But yeah, with every region at their strongest, I kind of hope it happens again one day. I do kind of miss the era where crew battles were a little bit more prevalent, at least than they are now.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think crew battles are super hype. And to answer your question, I think SoCal's got it in the bag, 10v10.
Nice.
I mean, I think if you just look at the top 10 in SoCal compared to the top 10 in Tri-State, it seems like it
Have
makes
those
sense.
people in front of you?
Top 10 in SoCal are Gadoran, Fiction, Face Roll.
We'll put Mango in there.
S2J, Mango, Casper, Nut, Asashi. Sorry, not Asashi, Franz, and
Soof.
I'm missing one person. Yeah,
well, you missed Null.
No, I
said he said Null. He said
Null.
Null.
He said Null? Okay,
No,
definitely.
yeah.
And then I think for
definitely
Tri-State
over Casper.
Yeah, Tri-State I'm a little less knowledgeable about, but off the top of my head, it's like IBDW, Aklo, JFlex, Mop Money, Wally, just Jason.
Polish will be on there.
Yeah, Polish if we include Pennsylvania, which is I agree. It's unclear whether Pennsylvania is.
Yeah, I feel like
Tri-State.
SoCal be probably winning.
Yeah, but I do think that if you for the second part of my question, I think it gets closer the further you extend it. So I think if you go like 30v30 or something like that, which obviously we
so you think that Tri-State has more depth than SoCal?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, like the last person on our PR is Asashi, and Asashi is kind of crazy. So I don't know. Like Asashi will like that guy is gonna beat some people in the future. He's cracked.
Oh, you don't have to tell me that. Asashi 3-0.
I'm not telling you. I'm telling everybody else.
Also, I'm always confused why Tri-State gets to be one region, but we have a whole state and we have to split it in two.
Hey,
like, why aren't we allowed to? If we
can
can pad out our 30-30 with some NorCal people. Just
everyone is known for all of history that if we just took California, we would just
that's
slow down the rest of the U.S.
Yeah.
California is like a whole coast, man.
Yeah,
true.
It is a little OP.
It is a little OP. Hey, we don't get Fat Goku.
I do think SoCal could also get even nastier if you do stuff like, Santi, starts playing more again, and if like Army was in really good shape, or West started playing more again, or Lucky,
Lucky
slumping.
Stop, whatever's going on with Lucky.
I think it could get dangerous pretty quickly. I miss having like Hugo and stuff in there, but. That's just how it is.
We all miss Hugo.
Yeah,
I would say that one of SoCal's weaknesses might be character diversity. You do see a lot of space animals in that top 10.
I think for crews, I think having a lot of Fox is okay though.
Yeah.
I hate when you're going against some crew and they have like 6 out of 7 people are Fox, and you're just like, well, I guess let's just start throwing people at them. Like, there's not really anything you can do to counterpick it.
Yeah, pretty much.
How many Mars do we have?
Yeah.
I do think wobbling in crew battles is kind of fun, though. I don't like it in bracket, but in crew battles, it's fine because
it does hit different.
You pick on them 364 days of the year, and then that one day you're just like, get him, like.
Go Army, that's all.
Yeah, get him, Army.
Go Army. I miss it. I do. Yeah, wobbling crew battles is great, and it's funny because all the crew battles, like back then when wobbling was legal, like they were all about. A lot of those crew battles came down to like wobbling. Like a lot of them came down to ices because like you only get to play one game, like when you go in, and like no one's like ready for wobbling when they go in. You usually kind of have to acclimate to it a little bit, so you catch a lot of people off guard.
You double jump, you air dodge to avoid the wobble, you get down smashed at 40. The whole crowd is screaming.
Yeah, their whole crew is screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Everybody knows wobbling is hype when it's not happening to me.
Yeah.
It's hype.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hype when it's not in bracket.
When it's not happening to you or your boy.
I just don't like it in bracket.
It makes sense. Makes sense.
There were just so many times where it feels like there was like a bomb in the bracket. Like you'd see like all the players, and you're like, well, round 2, you know, Moki has to play Random Wobbler 3, and you're like, oh well, like, you know, he could just lose that. Like anyone could just lose at any point to any wobbler, and it's just like it was just a crazy era, or you know, it was just the worst. You're like, oh, it's. Kalindi's been doing really well against the top 5 in the world lately, and then you see he has a wobbler in his bracket, and you're like, well. And so I'm kind of glad that era's over for now.
Yeah, I mean, personally, as a Sheik player, I don't think they need it.
Fair.
I don't think it has anything to do with them needing it. It's just dumb. It's just dumb, and it's wastes all our time. So.
I will say the one thing that people, it's funny you differentiate with bracket with regards to non-bracket, is that with the bracket, like, you know, it's hype when the upset happens, but then sometimes it sucks if like, okay, like, you know, Manga loses to Flips or whatever. It sucks when it's like, oh, but now like the upsets happen, but now like the top 8 is less hype. You know what I mean? Like if the people who you really want to watch play each other, if they get knocked out of the bracket or something, then sometimes that kind of makes it less enjoyable to watch later on. So
I don't get hype when people get wobbled out of bracket. That doesn't. I'm not like, oh yeah, like that's crazy. Like, nah.
But yeah, good question. PhD's nuts, and I'm of the opinion that SoCal's super beast right now. So, but I mean, yeah, we need to solidify it. I think we need to start running. I'm hoping Big House runs crew battles again this year. Maybe I'll talk to Rob. I don't know. I think they're fun. I think they're always a good time.
SoCal versus NorCal at Smash Camp. Nice.
That'd be hype. I should be there. I should be at Smash Camp. So should probably book my tickets at some point. But anyways.
NorCal's been hard carried in crews by SFAT being insane at crew battles for like 5 years.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
He always takes so many stocks. I've never seen him play as well in bracket as in crews.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the question. Any shout outs you want to do besides I guess the obvious shout outs to the SoCal PR?
Oh yeah.
PHDN.
I'll give my shout outs to the Burbank Death Crew. That includes Cream, Rat, Schmoop, Jamu, and myself. We're going to be dropping a combo video sometime in the next while once the other guys actually get their combos in, so keep an eye out for that. And then I'll also shout out our beloved TOs, Schmoop and Pipe, who run Verdugo every Monday, Lawless every other Saturday. Some of the best locals around, and could not be more thankful to them.
Absolutely.
And shout out to Fiction.
We're going to every single one.
Every single one.
Taking our money.
All right. Well, thank you, PhD's nuts. Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. So now, you can spend as much time on this question, but I did want to have you have a chance to talk about this too, Fiction, because we brought it up and I didn't get a chance to really follow up with it earlier. But yeah, you're working on a game, Breakneck.
Yes. Yeah.
It's been
Breakneck Emergence.
Breakneck Emergence. And
somebody made a game with cars a long time ago called Breakneck, just because it's like fast. But so Breakneck, but there's every word in the English language is already taken. So
yeah,
Breakneck Emergence is the name of this one.
But you have 2 words now, so you're a little bit safer.
Yeah.
So Breakneck Emergence is something that you've been working on for a while now. I know that it's been moving along, and maybe you can talk to people a little bit about how that journey has been, where you are in it now, and if any of that's translated to Melee. I'm sure maybe some game devs would be interested in hearing about that.
Okay, yeah, so like right now I think like we have a beta where there's like a lot of playable levels and stuff already. All the powers in the game are in, and you can like get them and play around with them. The level editor is like fully working, despite maybe not having like a good tutorial yet or anything, but it does totally work. Lately, like the last couple months, I've been pretty focused on getting the bosses done, and I'm at a point where I'm maybe 80% done with those, so I'm pretty happy about that. But still difficult because, you know, it's really easy to just make okay stuff with game dev, and I think that's the frustrating part, is that a lot of times you make something and you're like, well, I could just release this, that's fine. But then you're like, well, is this really what I want to even make or release? Like, and so you end up doing things a lot of times over and things take a really long time just because you can change your mind so easily. And there's so many ways in which you can change your mind and stuff like that. I think it's been a pretty difficult journey. It's also taken quite a long time, but I think ultimately it's been pretty cool to like make something so
Yeah.
big and like code the whole thing by myself and stuff like that. And I think I've definitely gotten better at Melee from game dev just because I think it gives you a kind of different perspective on like mechanics and stuff like that.
What have you taken? If there's there an example you can give?
I think maybe just like mechanics like frame data and like weird things in the game with like bugs or z-axis or ECB stuff. Like when I see it, I'm not like intimidated like I used to be like before doing game dev because I'm like, man, I've had to like code stuff like this before, you know. So like
You
hearing
think it's
about it is
almost interesting, how did they solve this? And you almost take that angle maybe?
um not really, more just
Okay.
like being familiar with like the types of weird results that can happen with programming and
Mm,
just sort of seeing the game as like as a computer program rather
okay.
than like as like seeing it more from like the end of like the code and the code creates this thing and like I'm kind of interacting with it but sort of just knowing the whole time that it's all math and stuff like that.
And it
I
makes you
think
more comfortable with it as opposed to
yeah,
being
it helps me be
intimidated.
more comfortable with like, oh, this game's so complicated. There's all these weird little situations and stuff like that. And I think it's a lot easier to just be like, well, yeah, you know, that's how it's coded or whatever.
Mm.
And I think my game is super, super fast. So I do think that moving and playing that game does help a little bit and like kind of keeping you in the zone of like playing a game very quickly and like reacting to stuff.
Cool.
I think it can help a little bit with like maybe aerial drift and stuff like that. It's a little bit ambiguous how it might directly help, but I've definitely like played it like a lot. Like I've definitely like spent like a month where all I do is I play my game instead of Melee, and then at the end of the month I'm like, oh, I'm kind of moving in Melee. Like my mind is like set up for stuff to be pretty quick. I'm down to answer any other questions about it too, and if you have any questions about like the design or the philosophy of it or anything like that, but.
Do
Otherwise,
you
that's pretty much it.
when you play it, do you use a GameCube controller?
So the GameCube controller is more of the secondary controller for this game. I don't think that the controls are super good for the way the buttons are kind of placed on the GameCube controller. So like I have Xbox support, PS5 support, and GameCube controller support, but only GameCube controller to support through the official adapter. I haven't figured out how to get the Mayflash working yet. But yeah, like there's a couple of things where like the GameCube controller doesn't have an L1 button, and
Right.
and also the position of the face buttons is a little awkward for people. It's just they're not really set up in a way where it's easy to kind of hold some of them while you press other ones. It's very like even like doing like full hop aerials and stuff in Melee can get kind of messy and you need like claw and a lot of stuff like that. So the controller is just not super great, and I think that like so for me the main controller would be Xbox or PS, like DualShock or an Xbox controller, and I think those are probably the best controllers for it. It's completely playable on a GameCube controller, but I do think that like ergonomically it's probably not the best and stuff like that. I think like I made it, you can do it. It's just the way the buttons are laid out and like the Z button is kind of like awkward to press on a GameCube controller. Like while you're holding down other buttons and stuff like that. It's because the game has a lot of button holds, and GameCube controllers are just really not great.
They're not
with button holds.
That's a good point, and you
But
never
I set it up to work, but like I don't encourage people to play it with that. Like they can, and some people play it and they're like, yeah, I don't have any problems. Like my hands are fine. And then some people play it and it's been like an hour and they're like, yeah, my finger kind of hurts. And it's like, yeah, I don't really know what to do about that. Like the game wasn't designed with the GameCube controller as its primary controller, even though it does work.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. And while, I think we could ask more questions about it, I think, if anyone is curious, I'd really like to just say, where can they find it? Where can they find more information about
Learn
it?
more.
Yeah, okay, so we have like a Discord server that people can join, and I post updates in there. And then we do have a website, but all it basically does is it links to the Discord and, my Twitter and stuff like that, and has like a video showing some stuff. Yeah, I think in terms of like marketing and stuff like that, it's really difficult to like find a sweet spot for like how to talk about the game before it's done and stuff like that. Like, I think that it's easy when I don't know. I think there's a little bit of like, you want people to know about it, but it's hard to show off something that's like noticeably incomplete a lot of times because you show it and then people are like, oh, but what about this? And you're like, I know. That's why I didn't want to, show you the thing.
Okay.
So, but I do think I have like some videos and stuff of it. I think I could do a better job at probably like centralizing the marketing materials and making it easier for people to find the videos and stuff like that. But we do have a playable beta, in our Discord that you can download and stuff like that.
Okay, and where's is there a Discord like link or anything you can?
Yeah, you could just like if you go to breakneckemergence.com, I'm pretty sure it's still up, and you can get the beta link, and there's a Discord link from breakneckemergence.com.
Great.
Easy.
All right. Well, breakneckemergence.com. You heard it here first, gamers. Well, probably not if you're already following Fiction on Twitter, but you're hearing it here first now. But yeah, with that being said, I think we covered a lot of the big points here. So now it's your turn to pose a question to the YouTube audience, Fiction, the community voice. You can ask one question, whatever you want, to the YouTube comments, and we've got to have that discussed at the beginning of next week. So what are you thinking about?
All right. I was thinking of something kind of dumb, but it's just like Falco with Fox's movement data or Fox with Falco lasers. Who's the better?
I've never heard it.
This is a bigger brain
before.
Yeah, this is a bigger brain version of the classic one. Because the classic one, which is Fox with Falco Shine or Falco with Fox Shine, there's actually a correct answer.
Right. Fox with Falco Shine is clearly better.
Falco with Fox Shine. I've tried playing Falco with Fox Shine. He's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
He's
you
terrible.
Just shine and hope for the laser reset.
Yeah, but it actually doesn't work. They can buffer directions.
No, definitely not good. But I think Falco with the 3-frame jump squat and Fox's short hop height and his dash speed and his friction versus, Fox being able to short hop double Falco laser.
Wow.
I didn't think about that.
Hey, but I don't know which one would win that. Falco with Fox's dash speed getting a little scary though.
Yeah, definitely. If you could just running shine like Fox, but it's
Fox
is really good.
Yeah, Fox has short hop laser, but Falco has Fox's running power shield. So I don't know. It's an interesting thought.
If it's Fox's movement data, then Falco can also short hop double laser then?
It's a good question. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
Yeah, because I was thinking about, to me, it came down to, well, if Fox can only short hop double laser and Falco can't, then that seems pretty clear to me.
Well, I think
if we're directly ripping the Falco laser move,
then Fox would only be able to do the short hop, right?
Yeah, the single laser. So
Fox would not be able to short hop double laser. I think that's probably the fair way to phrase it then.
So it's the Falco laser. All right. So yeah, this is a fun question then. I'm very curious what people have to say about this one. Good question. And I think good discussion all around. Thank you so much, Fiction, for joining us.
Yeah, it was fun.
Great to have
Thanks
your
for
insight.
having me on.
Yeah, that's for sure. And thank you, Toph, as always, holding it down. Great insight.
Thank you.
Great topics. And thank you guys out there for calling in, listening, and contributing. We will see you next week on Radio Melee. Signing out for now.
Peace out, guys.